Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be going over a game where I had a 97.4% accuracy against an opponent, and I had a 2300 rated performance. Out of all the games that I've currently played, that is about the second to third highest rated that I've played, and we're going to go over the game. So quickly, as you can see here, 97.4% accuracy. The move order was somewhere in the 40s. Kind of a decent long game, 2300 rated performance. So we're going to go over, I'm going to move the camera back over to the side, and we're going to get started. So with this game, I'm going to move it all the way back to the beginning. It ended up being a draw. It wasn't a win, but it was one of those games where we were just going neck for neck the entire time. The eval bar really never went over point like 8 for anybody. So it was basically a draw the entire time. So he goes for e4, I go e5. We go for the classic sort of like 3 knights game. I decided to play d4 in this moment. Takes, and I take with a knight. He castles, I go bishop e6, and he goes rook e1, prompting for the knight to jump in at some point. And then I just kind of bring my other bishop in. I could have went bishop c5, but I didn't. I figured I'd hold on to the knight because obviously this is happening, and I'm going to need to castle sometime shortly. So he goes knight to g5, I castle. He takes my bishop, and I take his knight. Now, I have double pawns in the center. He does have a slight advantage, and basically at this point in the game was the highest advantage that anybody had the entire game. So we're going to continue on. He goes knight c3, I take his knight. He takes my pawn, and then I kind of move out of the way, and which was kind of a good move. Kind of gave up about half of his advantage from that point, which then he takes his, my knight. And then I go queen f6, threatening this and also threatening this pawn here. Which basically he goes bishop h3, protecting. But then I have this nice movement here, which ends up happening. I go what am I saying? Queen takes f2. He goes king h8, the only move. Which then I'm pretty sure... my idea for rook f7 was to double barrel, but then the problem is you have bishop here, and then I can't double the barrel because I won't have a mate. So he basically goes bishop e3 instead, attacking my queen. I move the queen to h4, and I just kind of do my thing. I bring the other rook in. He takes rook. I take his rook, and he goes queen to e2. So we're about 18 moves in the game. It's basically dead draw at this point. No one really has any like significant advantage. My weaknesses are going to be on b7 and potentially g7 as well. So I'm trying to figure out, what can I do? How can I start gaining space in the center? How can I start asking questions about his position? Because he has doubled pawns here, and this is his basically only weakness at this point. And then this rook being on the file here, if you were to take this pawn, let's say like you go here. After this, you have some problems with this, with also attacking this. So I feel like I had a decent attacking chances. And I go e4, and he decides to go rook f1, which I take, and then queen takes. And then I decided to take his pawn. Obviously, this is not back rank because of the bishop. So he takes the pawn, c takes d3. And then I go knight e5, again, trying to attack the pieces, trying to ask questions. I want to be able to win. If I go here, you can't take because of mate. So if I had this idea of going like here, let's say, I could just take, and then after that, I might want to push a pawn to watch out for back rank mate. So continues on. He goes bishop to f4, and then I go queen back, basically preventing him from being able to take my knight. He'd have to go here, which then he goes g3, and I go g5. I'm like, hey, what are you going to do? Your queen's under attack. You need to do something about that. And he takes my knight. I take his knight, or I take his bishop, and then I've kind of thought in this endgame, I'm like, okay, am I okay with this endgame here, where a lot of my pawns are kind of just showing around. He has more of a pawn island than I do. I might be able to have some sort of chances with promoting with a pawn here, because after a while, I could have a chance of stopping it. Only problem is we have opposite squared bishop. So an opposite squared bishop endgame, 90% of the time, if you don't get your pieces in the right spot, it's a draw. Or if you do, it's a draw. If you don't, obviously you end up losing, depending on where your pawns are located. So like right now, this pawn is a weakness to this bishop. if all these pawns were on dark squares, this bishop's never going to touch my pawns ever, like ever. So I don't have to worry about losing them really much, because if it's on my squares, like the dark squares, I'll be okay. So I take his queen, and after kind of some thinking, I'm like, okay, I can go h5, kicking the bishop out of the way after g4, and then maybe, let's say he goes bishop g2, so we'll kind of play that out, boom. Let's say he goes for another move like this. Sorry, here. Let's say this. Nope, come on, mouse. There we go. Boom. Here, he goes here, and then I have here after, because he's attacking this. And then overall, the only thing I can really do is try to, get behind the pawns, but he'll move them, no problem. And I decide to bring my king in. He brings his king. I push h5 first, or second, sorry. And then he goes bishop to c8, basically attacking this pawn here. And then I push up again, like the idea that I mentioned. And it's just been a solid draw the entire time. No advantage, nothing crazy. I protect my pawn. And honestly, I was sitting there asking myself, this looks like one of those, like, oh, that's a bot move. Like who's going to be going bishop here? You're wanting to keep an eye on these pawns. But, here doesn't really look good. So I'm like, what do? I bring my king in. He brings his as well. And then he goes d5, which totally makes sense. I bring the bishop to e7. So after a while, I'm kind of sitting there going, my bishop has a really good square, or really good scope over my pawns. I can bring it in eventually here. This pawn's never going to go anywhere because, I'll win. The pawn, he goes c4. I go bishop to c5 just to kind of keep everything in play. We start making these pawn movements, takes, and I actually had a thought here. I didn't know if this looked good for me or not, even though technically it's still a draw no matter what. I decided to push instead of taking to create this sort of barrier and also this almost unstoppable pawn. Like the bishop's not going to be able to do anything in this situation, creating a blockade essentially, which is a really good tactic, a really good strategy to watch, because if you can in a draw, you're absolutely going to want to do that. So I go bishop f4 just to kind of let him pick. Right now he can only make so many moves. It's a draw. It's going to be repetition most likely. He goes there. And I decided to go king here, protecting everything. If he wants to take, he absolutely can. You're gonna want to take with the a pawn, because if you take with this one, there's not really much of a difference, but this pawn might be a bigger problem down the way. And this pawn needs to stay here so that in case the king were to get in, it doesn't end up finding a way in and getting that pawn. So basically this is what sideline. What ends up happening is hold on, we go here. He goes there, he checks, and then I just push forward, and then basically at this moment, I went over a couple different sidelines just to kind of see what he could do. He basically only has these two moves here, otherwise completely losing. And I offer him a draw, and he accepts. So this game was just absolutely solid, probably one of my best games as far as quality. Played many moves. Let's do the math. 22, 6, so 20, I think hold on. I think it'll just tell me how many moves at the bottom. 40 move game. So very overall solid. Playing that long and keeping the accuracy is always something you want to look for in a chess player, because you could have a really good understanding of the opening, but if you don't know endgames, you could lose all of the advantage you've built up over the game. And basically the only advantage that he had was a slight inaccuracy that I made in the opening, but it really didn't impact the game. As you see here, it's a complete draw. All my pawns are on dark squares, all of his pawns are on white squares, and I can't attack it, therefore creating a blockade. Now, let's say he goes something like this. Brutal mistake, because after something like this, I'm completely winning. I've taken two of your pawns, and the only real moves, like I mentioned here, for the white king or bishop is to basically either go here, and then I could just shuffle my pieces around, and then, any move like this, bad. Let's say, you go here. Here's basically an inaccuracy as well, because then you could block off the king from being able to step back onto that platform. Or actually, no, bishop d3, excuse me. Nope. What are we doing here? Bishop e5. That was the move. Because this, and then obviously, if you go here, being the only move you can't really go anywhere, everything else kind of leads to a zugzwang. So let's say here, if you decide to start chasing my pawn, I can go here, take, and if you decide to take, it's basically over. You know, like I'm winning completely, and it's over. So we basically just offered a draw. There's no point in trying to question anything. Obviously, a win. Played overall really good in the opening. Played a lot of book moves. Found a way to create some sort of attack on the opening, threatening the bishop and the move. Later on, kind of just solidifying the center, trading off all of our pieces and going into a basically completely drawn end game. Played very well. I played 22 best moves. Honestly, it's very good. I only had it was about more than 50% of my moves I played the top engine moves, so I was pretty happy. 2300 rating in a game is honestly solid anyway, so, you know, especially I'm 1500, so that's not really anything that like normally happens. I know that I'm higher rated. It just I have consistency problems, and I've been trying to really tackle that by studying end games, studying historical games too. Like today, I spent about an hour learning different Morphe games, learning Max Lange defense, learning Sicilian. And the openings are really good, but you know you're gonna want to keep an eye on watching end games, because end games could be the make or break of the game. And at any point you could lose the game, like the game that I'm about to post beforehand. I had beaten this 2100 because he allowed a knight fork with the rook and king, and I ended up winning the end game. So I appreciate you guys checking out the new video that I posted last week. I'm gonna post a bunch of new videos this week because I've gotten a lot of content the past day or so. So really grateful that you guys have been supporting me on TikTok and also here on YouTube, commenting, checking out my video. And also, I'm going to be doing a giveaway announcement on August 10th, August 11th. I'm going to be giving away a full month of a diamond membership on chess.com, and I'm going to make a post about it later on. So if you guys do want to go enter the giveaway, just check out my YouTube, keep an eye out for that video, and once you see the announcement, comment, like, and subscribe. And once you're done with that, you'll basically be automatically entered, and then I'll pick a comment out of that, and then I'll send you a free month of diamond membership. And with that diamond membership, you get free lessons, free puzzles, and unlimited basically everything. You can learn from an online chess coach. You can learn from all kinds of stuff on there. So I'm going to leave it there. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I appreciate you guys checking out the new video and this one that I'm currently uploading. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and keep kicking ass playing chess.